Welcome to Seek the Magic, where we explore the mysteries of the universe and uncover the secrets of living a more enchanted life. I'm your host, Erin, and today I'm thrilled to be joined by Kristen, an intuitive who's here to share her wisdom on the power of the divine feminine archetypes and the magic of intuition. So welcome, Kristen.
Thank you. Hello. I'm glad to be here.
Thank you. So happy to speak with you today. So first off, maybe just start with telling your story and your connection with divine feminine archetypes. Would love to start there.
Awesome. Yep. So I am a lifetime yogi, and I found Kundalini Yoga about maybe 5 or 6 years ago now. And I've always done yoga, and I've always loved connecting to my body that way, moving my body with the breath. That it just makes my whole life different and my whole world feel different. And so when I found Kundalini Yoga, it just threw my world into a tailspin because it is a divine feminine practice. It's an energetic practice, and it uses sound and breath. It really comes from the principles of we are vibrational beings and intuitive beings. And so that's kind of what brought me into this work with divine feminine. And now I am working with somatics, embodiment practices paired with Kundalini Yoga so that I can help women kind of harness their power to reconnect with their power of their intuition and their emotions. And so that's kind of who I am and what I do now.
That's very exciting. So I recently got into Kundalini Yoga, not quite as long ago as you did, about a year ago. Can you explain to the audience what the difference between we Westerners think of as yoga and then Kundalini specifically?
Yeah, very much so. And Kundalini's kind of had a bad rap. The history of it is kind of, in America, has kind of gotten a bad rap just with Yogi Bhajan and everything. And so the Kundalini that I do, and the way I like to describe it, is that it is one of the branches of yoga. And so it's a yogic practice. It will feel familiar if you do yoga because there are some familiar postures in it. And we do some similar moves. We are focused on the breath and movement. But that's kind of the only similarity to it. And so what we do in Kundalini is really focus on breath. We focus on, I call it repetitive movements almost. Mm-hmm. Like we just have a set movement, whether it's a twist or whether it's arms up in the air or marching, whatever the case may be. We do that for a set amount of time. Mm-hmm. And so we do it over and over and repeat the movement, which gives our body time to feel and learn it differently. And the breath always leads the way. Like my teacher, Guru Singh and Brett Larkin both talk about how even if you are sitting in a chair or sitting on the floor, imagining, like just picturing yourself doing the postures and breathing with it, you are doing Kundalini because it is such an energetic practice. The focus of it is opening the Sushumna Nadi, the primary channels and the chakras, and letting the breath create a resonance chamber in our own bodies and use sound as vibration to align and open everything. So it feels familiar. It's a lot more woo. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It is a very physical practice, as you know, just because of the duration and some of the postures that we do. But at the same time, the outcome is just completely different. I would describe it as more of a spiritual practice. And like your world changes once you practice Kundalini, as you probably know.
Definitely. I started it and discovered, I think I came upon it through listening to, a certain podcast, and it just happened at the time I was postpartum with my second daughter. And so I was looking for something to just approach and do during my schedule. And it's just, it really did change my world for sure. Yeah. How did you first discover it or come upon it?
So I used to own a yoga studio in my town where I live, and we would have guests come in and lead workshops and trainings and stuff like that. And I was very much about just kind of giving people a taste of different worlds and being open to all practices and all philosophies and just coming together as a community to understand each other and our differences and really support that. And so I got connected to someone who did Kundalini Yoga, and she came in and led a workshop, and it was amazing. And that was my first taste of it. I had done a couple practices before on like in YouTube or whatever. I had kind of played with it. It's different in person. The practice was just very different the way she structured it. And that was kind of how I was introduced to it. And I won't lie, the first time I did it, it was totally overwhelming to my nervous system. I didn't sleep for like 3 days.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. And so the way I teach it is a little bit different than kind of that traditional Kundalini Kriyas. I use the Kriyas, but in a different way, just to make sure that we're really grounded. Just because my first experience, it was amazing, but afterwards was challenging. And some people have that, right? Just that overwhelm of the nervous system and the energetics of it. It's like, I literally didn't sleep for like 3 days.
Wow. That is quite interesting. My start was a little bit different because it was like, okay, I'm going to do this for 5 minutes, which is probably like the baby step way of starting it. And now I'm like, okay, how do I get to the next level? That sort of thing.
Yeah.
How would you suggest if people are interested, how they should start or things like that?
So I think it's important to check in with yourself. And this is kind of why I do like Divine Feminine too, right? Like your body knows what it's ready for, and your body knows, your nervous system knows what it can really handle. And so check in with yourself and almost shop around to different practices, different styles of teaching, even in Kundalini, even though it's very set of like, here's a, 10 bodies Kriya, and here's a Kriya to open the heart, or whatever the case may be. Those are similar, but like my experience, this is the first time, was so overwhelming. I encourage people to really check in with themselves and find a teacher, find a practice that really feels good to them. And and even 5 minutes starting just to kind of like taste the waters and see how you feel about it and how you like it and what happens afterwards and all of that kind of stuff. And then gradually add and add and add as you like. There's a lot of good resources online. Like my teacher, Brett Larkin, she has some stuff on YouTube. I have some videos on YouTube. And, just listening to people talk about their philosophy of Kundalini as well, gives you a really good indicator of what the classes are going to be like.
Yeah, absolutely. What I enjoyed about it is that the different, as you said, repetitions or postures or things like that, they're connected with a certain intention, and that can help you, de-stress or, one of them, which I didn't think would make a difference, but it absolutely did, is like the addiction sort of thing where you put your hands on your temples and you just, do that for a few minutes. And I feel like it has made an impact on, some of the like addictive type of things that, I was really regimented or whatever, that has made a difference, and it's amazing.
Yeah. And that's the cool part about Kundalini too. And I tell people this, like, you don't have to know what it's doing, as we do traditional yoga, and like as I teach traditional yoga, which I do less and less frequently, it's all about, alignment and muscle engagement and breath. And it's so much in the body. And there is that philosophical aspect of, removing the awareness upward, elevating and connecting to the universe. But Kundalini, there are so many layers to what we're doing in that practice that like I sometimes don't even understand the depth of what is happening in my own body and my own awareness until, like you said, afterwards, it's like, wow, I didn't even think that was something that I needed to work on or that I wanted to focus on. And I didn't think that was going to do anything. And all of a sudden it's like, wow, that's completely changed my life.
Yeah.
That's the cool part, is like the magic is there. And you can choose how much you do of that magic, how much you engage with that magic. And you're going to get extra just because it is.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that the magic too is like learning and knowing that you can start at one level and then you can explore more and learn more about yourself and the practice too.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah.
That's awesome. So I guess branching out more to the Divine Feminine, maybe you can talk about that and how you help people, explore, start, what is their Divine Feminine? Maybe we'll start there.
So it's interesting because my definition of divine feminine is ever evolving, which I think is just the epitome of working in that divine feminine energy, right? Is that permission to always change your mind and permission to always evolve and to learn and to go with kind of what you're learning in the moment. And I will say, as we have this discussion, like we're using like masculine and feminine for this context of discussion, but it's not gendered, right? It's really like sometimes I even say like sun and moon energy or Shiva Shakti energy, just to describe the duality, the yin and yang, the duality of this. And, you know, it's been defined as a divine feminine, but really what that means is the less structured and the more fluid, right? That divine feminine aspect, that moon energy, that lunar aspect is the fluctuation and the flow and the feel, really into the feelings, really into the intuition, getting out of the head, getting back into the body. That is the energy that we work with. And in our society, we are so regimented, right? Just like you were talking about with addiction, right? Like, and all of those, that kriya of addiction, and just to like let go of the regiment, because we can be addicted to anything. And that is that like overwhelming masculine of like, I have to do this, I have to do this, and I have to do this. And it's structure, 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 right? And so the feminine side of that moon aspect of it is allowing yourself to feel into your desires. And today, maybe I don't want to go and have lunch at 2 p.m. Maybe today I want to go swimming. Today I want to go for a walk. And granted, we can't always do that, you know, but being deep into the power of that lunar aspect gives you permission to really tap in and go with the flow in a different way than just like, oh, you know, so-and-so's here, so I'm going to talk to them. And, oh, I have this in front of me, so I'm going to do this. That's different than what am I feeling? What am I desiring today? How am I going to do more to support and nourish that aspect of it?
Yeah, absolutely. Looking inwards, which is so important, because I think prior to, you know, getting into the spiritual space, I just thought about what is my mind, and my mind is like one thing. And now I'm like, okay, there's my body, there's my, you know, heart, there's the different aspects of my breath. There's so much to consider.
Yeah, very much so. So many of us, and I am at fault for this a lot of times too, not so much anymore, but I still catch myself. We go around our day without realizing we even have a body.
Right. Yeah.
We're so much in our head, and like we're not even paying attention to our body. And that is, the first thing I do with my clients is get them to feel their body again.
Yeah.
And when we have trauma, when we have experiences, when we're told to do certain things and be a certain way and reinforced for that structure and that organization and to be good, especially as women, like we totally intentionally, even more so, cut off our physical body. And that's 80% of our information that we should be working from. And it's just not there. Like we don't even think we have it.
Right. It is, you know, it is crazy how many people were brought up and what society tells us to, you know, we have to do things a certain way and we should suppress our emotions. And really what this wisdom, this ancient wisdom is telling us is, no, that's where all the information is. And that's where our gifts are and key information.
Yes, exactly. And, you know, I think this is important for everybody, no matter what your gender is. Like, this is powerful information that your body has, and everyone should be tapping into that more. Like, everyone has this power. Everyone has this ability. And, you know, we do ourselves such a disservice when we just constantly lead from the head, no matter who we are and no matter where we are in society and what we're doing. I think it's breaking society down because no one feels their bodies anymore. You know, that's a whole other conversation, but
yeah, no, definitely. It could be so many conversations, and it's almost, you know, if you're not listening to it on a day-to-day basis, ultimately it will come up somehow. You know? Yes,
exactly. Yes. Yeah, right. And like a lot of clients that I see have, you know, body pain or back pains or injuries, repetitive use injuries, or just all of a sudden like they're gaining weight or their body just hurts or they're not sleeping. And that literally is because they've stopped listening for so long that that's the only way that their body can get attention again. And so now like they're so deep in a hole that we have to nourish, feel safe, because the body doesn't feel safe anymore because it's being ignored. And so we have to come back to that connection and rebuild those pathways and that connection. So the body starts to feel safe. And, lo and behold, we're maybe focused on pain and we may be focused on, sleep and anxiety, but all of a sudden all these other things start to happen around them too, because we've reconnected, and like all of a sudden the body's like, oh, thanks. And the universe is like, yes, here you go,
Yeah, definitely. So, and I think the intuition is sort of the first gateway to that. If somebody is sort of new and says, okay, well, I do listen to my intuition, but what's the best way or a recommendation for how to approach that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I read something the other day and it really stuck with me. It was just in passing, and there was a part of it that said, we all have intuition. Like, all of us are intuitives, every single one of us. We just choose to not believe it, right? And so whether you call it intuition, whether you call it awareness, whether you call it your gut, whatever you want to call it, like, we all have the ability to know from our body. And so the first part of that, the first step is to stop and slow down, right? As we go through our day without a body, it's because we're going. And we have to stop going to come back. Right. It's kind of, I think of like, we're catching a fish and we're like reeling it back in while our head is way out, and we're reeling it back because our body is still like way back here, like saying, hello, come to get me. And so we have to stop first. And then we can start to feel, right? So we stop doing, find rest, whatever the case may be. And then we take a breath, because that's the gateway into the body, is the breath, right? We take a breath. And then I like to put my hands on my body. I like to feel my body. And I have a really cool practice that I do with all of my clients and myself all the time, of the duality of sensation. So, if you put your hands on your body, you can feel the weight of your hands on your body. Right. And you can feel like the movement, the texture of your hands rubbing on your body, but you can also feel your body underneath your hands, right? You can feel the texture of the fabric from the palms of your hands. You can feel your skin on the palms of your hands. And so just touching your body and then tapping into the duality of that sensation, can you feel the weight of your hands from your body, and can you feel your body underneath your hands at the same time? Right. And that's just that, because you have to stop to do that. You can't be going and being like, oh yeah, I'm going to feel. You have to stop, you have to breathe, and then you can start to feel. It kind of brings you back to this moment.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And I love the idea of slowing down, which is so like my mind part of me. My mind's like, no, I want to listen to podcasts on 2x speed and like do 5 things at once. But like, that is putting you on autopilot. And that's very much the mind aspect of you. When you're saying to slow down, you're actually like letting in more specific information that you shut out for a long time.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And then first I want to say too, I think I want to acknowledge the fact that, you're in autopilot when we do that. Right. And that is the brain trying to keep you safe, which I think is just so ironic, right? Like it's trying to keep you safe. And by keeping you safe, it's making it unhealthy and unsafe, right? It's just that, but it's a familiar pattern, and familiarity feels safe, even though it really doesn't do us any good. It does us a disservice. And so then once you do kind of calm your brain, or just stop listening to it, really, like it just can keep chattering, because it will, but let it be softer. Then you can start to ask yourself that question when you start to feel your body, like, how do I feel? Right? How do I feel? I don't know how I feel. That's such a hard question. I ask people that all the time, and often they're like, I don't know.
Right.
Right? How do you feel? And even just having that emotional language, the emotional intelligence and language to talk about emotions. How do you feel? It's happy or sad or angry. Like, those are the 3 emotions, right? There's so many more layers to that. And then, once you figure out how you feel, what do you want? And that gets us deeper into that desire.
How do I want to feel? Yeah.
Right. Exactly. And that's that deeper stepping into the diving into that feminine, that Shakti practice.
Yeah. So in taking energy the intention, what are some of your favorite ways, I guess, daily to incorporate that into your...
Yeah. So I have just started to play with this new practice just because I'm deep in somatics right now. I'm deep in embodiment practices and how that pairs with Kundalini and the divine feminine, right? Like embodiment is, somatics are the embodiment of that lunar energy, of that intuitive and fluid expressive energy, right? And so I have a Kundalini community and I lead sadhanas and I lead classes and things like that. And so sadhanas are, for us, we do it in 40 days. So it's 40 days of a daily practice. And we come together every day in the morning. We start our day off. I make them short. They're like 20 minutes, but we do it for 40 days together and I make them seasonal because everything I do is lunar, right? Everything is seasonal. Everything is cyclical. Everything is nature. And so we do seasonal sadhanas. And so I just finished leading one live. I sent them off on their own to do theirs. And so I've moved into my own sadhana practice. And what I've done, this is not something I've ever done before, but I absolutely love it. And it is such a great way to connect with that intuition and emotion and expression and really kind of dive deeper into the somatics of it, is I've created a playlist. And so it's my morning somatic playlist and it's literally 15 minutes long. And I picked songs. Right now, I just picked songs that made my body resonate, that like lit me up, that like, oh yeah, I love that song, you know, that kind of expression, because that's part of it, is really kind of intuitively like, ooh, what lights you up? What attracts you? And so that's that first part. And then I literally roll out my mat in my bedroom in my pajamas before I even do anything else. And I hit play on my playlist and I literally just move my body until the music is done. And that is a beautiful way, because if you're not used to that, then it's really uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Right. And so, and that's the whole part of that, right? Like there's so much power in this Kundalini and this feminine and this lunar energy. And we are so uncomfortable with it. And it's so unfamiliar. And so, you know, the way that I just am kind of diving deep in it is letting myself be uncomfortable. No one's around. And I know I have a set amount of time that I get to be uncomfortable and play with this. And it's kind of fun. I kind of love it. And it's kind of crazy. The thing I work really hard at right now, just because it's my own practice, is staying away from that structure of like familiar yoga poses. You know, like today I was like, I found myself going back to downward dog, which is fine. But then I'm like, how can I make this more expressive and not just be a yoga practice? I don't want it to be yoga. I want it to be movement. I want it to be somatics. I want it to feel. How can I make this more about moving my body and less about doing yoga?
Yeah. I love that. And I listened to something the other day that it said, you know, do something creative every day. And so you're putting structure around it. However, you have this space that is allowing your intuition to lead.
100%. Yeah. Yeah. And it's interesting because that's one thing that I've learned lately too about this work and this feminine energy, right? Is it's easy to move into like dissing the patriarchy and it's all about expression and, you know, women's power and all this kind of stuff. But there is a balance. There's a reason that it's yin and yang, the Shiva Shakti, right? Like, and that masculine structure, that sun structure, is there to really create a safe container, a space for that feminine lunar energy to express, to feel, to move in whatever way, you know. And it's a beautiful duality that I've really started to understand a lot more for myself and for my clients, of that structure is necessary in the energy of service and devotion to the sensuality and expression of the moon and the feminine.
Yeah, absolutely. We need both. We need both. And our bodies desire both.
Yes, 100%. Yes.
So I guess if people want to, like you mentioned a few programs that you've led, if people want to, you know, connect with some of these things, I certainly do. How can we connect with your community?
I love that. So the easiest way would be to just find my website. It's just my name, KrisBatzner.com. You can find me on all social media. I am everywhere. I do card readings on TikTok, which is kind of fun. That's my experimental platform.
Oh my gosh. I need to see that. Yeah.
I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just going to play with TikTok and see what happens. Yeah. And some of those come over to like my stories and some of my Facebook pages sometimes. But You can find me anywhere on social media. My website is kind of my anchor of where you can find all of the information. I do have a Kundalini community. I have a yoga community and a Kundalini community. And this month in August, I don't know when this will post, but I'm combining them into one place. So it's going to be just a home base. It's going to be a community of movement, of awakening, of coming together. You'll have some yoga. You have a lot of yoga. You'll have a lot of Kundalini. You'll have some embodiment and somatic work as well. It's, it'll be like a monthly check-in place membership kind of thing. And then I also really, my heart energy, my heart service is my embodied coaching. And this is helping just women navigate transitions, whether it's having kids or empty nesters or new careers or literally like menopause and change of life, where all of a sudden like your body is betraying you and you don't know who you are because you've been in service to everyone else for so long. Like that's really kind of where I work, where I love working. And we do Kundalini, we do somatics, we do embodiment, and we literally dive deep and relearn how to be these goddesses that we really are and really embody that in our daily.
Well, that is amazing, Kristen. Thank you so much. I will definitely include all that information, and I'm signing up and joining your community for
Lovely.
sure. So I'd love to speak again more. It was great to connect, and thank you so much for speaking about intuition and introducing us to the magic of Kundalini.
Thank you so much for having me. I would love to talk again. I can talk forever about this. It was lovely to have this conversation.
Definitely.
With you.
It's a date then. Okay.
Yeah, awesome. Perfect.
All right. Take care. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.